and those raising concerns were frequently accused of racism. Never again can people be silenced in that way. And I pay tribute to people who have raised these cases over the years. Police often did not investigate. Local councils covered things up. The Crown Prosecution Service frequently failed victims.
Yvette Cooper's fiery confrontation in Parliament today left MPs stunned. As she grilled her opponents over the alleged Southport cover-up, you could hear a pin drop in the chamber. But what exactly did Cooper reveal that caused such an uproar?
Instead of those victims being protected and the perpetrators prosecuted, those girls were systematically failed. Many cases were covered up because of absurd concerns about so-called community relations. The whole country is shocked by the rape gang scandal. Over years or decades, thousands and maybe tens of thousands of vulnerable young girls were systematically raped.
And why are some calling this the biggest political scandal of the year? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. As Yvette Cooper stepped into the parliamentary arena, the air crackled with tension. Armed with a list of unanswered questions, she was ready to pry open the government's tightly sealed vault of secrets surrounding the Southport attack. The Shadow Home Secretary's relentless pursuit of the truth was about to send shockwaves through the House of Commons. Cooper wasted no time in launching her offensive. "Mr. Speaker," she began, her voice steady and determined, "the public deserves to know why crucial information about the Southport attack has been withheld. What is the government trying to hide?" The chamber fell silent, all eyes fixed on the opposition benches. As Cooper's questioning intensified, cracks began to appear in the government's wall of silence.
And I pay tribute to people who have raised these cases over the years, starting, I think, with former Labour MP Anne Cryer, nearly 2 decades ago, who first raised these problems, and those raising concerns were frequently accused of racism. Never again can people be silenced in that way, and bravely persevered, despite accusations of racism and worse, including from her very own colleagues. And let me just say, in that vein,
she zeroed in on the Prime Minister's knowledge of Axel Rabana's background, revealing a startling fact that had been kept from the public eye. Can the Home Secretary explain why the Prime Minister failed to disclose that Axel Rabana had been referred to the PREVENT program not once, but multiple times? The government benches shifted uncomfortably, their silence speaking volumes. But Cooper was just warming up. In a dramatic turn, she unveiled a shocking discovery that sent murmurs rippling through the chamber. "Mr. Speaker, I have information that suggests Axel Rabana was found in possession of ricin and an Al-Qaeda manual. Yet this critical information was never shared with the public. Why?" The revelation hung in the air, heavy with implications. The Shadow Home Secretary's methodical approach was building a damning case against the government's handling of the Southport attack.
And smearing people.
Order.
It's those concerns.
Shadow.
A word on the Prime Minister's comments this morning. It is not far right to stand up for victims of mass rape. Smearing people who raise those issues is exactly how this ended up getting covered up in the first place. Now, I will, of course, repeat now what I said yesterday.
She pressed on, questioning the rationale behind withholding such vital information. Does the Home Secretary not agree that by keeping these facts from the public, the government has potentially fueled dangerous misinformation and conspiracy theories? As Cooper's relentless questioning continued, it became clear that the government's strategy of silence was backfiring spectacularly. Each unanswered question only served to heighten suspicions and fuel speculation about what else might be hidden beneath the surface of the official narrative, and the opposition benches grew more animated, sensing blood in the water. Cooper's colleagues nodded approvingly as she systematically dismantled the government's defense. It was a masterclass in parliamentary scrutiny, with Cooper playing the role of a determined detective unraveling unraveling a complex mystery. And the government's tight-lipped approach to the Southport attack didn't just leave the public in the dark. It may have inadvertently sparked a powder keg of civil unrest. As Cooper continued her relentless questioning, she painted a vivid picture of the dangerous void created by the lack of official information. But this wasn't just about keeping people informed. It was about the very real consequences of staying silent. Cooper didn't pull any punches as she laid out how this information vacuum was quickly filled with a toxic brew of misinformation. And here's the kicker. Some of this false information might have come from hostile foreign actors. It's like leaving your front door wide open and wondering why the neighborhood cats have taken over your living rooms. But the Shadow Home Secretary wasn't done. She drew a direct line between the spread of these false narratives and the riots that erupted in the wake of the attack. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? The very silence meant to maintain order might have been the spark that lit the fuse of chaos. Cooper didn't just throw these accusations around willy-nilly. She came armed with expert opinion, citing terrorism expert Jonathan Hall's warnings about the dangers of information gaps. It's like trying to navigate a minefield blindfolded. Sooner or later, something's going to go boom. But perhaps the most damning critique came when Cooper questioned the government's judgment in dismissing early concerns as fake news. It's a phrase we've heard bandied about so much lately, but in this context, it takes on a whole new level of irresponsibility. After all, when the government cries fake news, who's left to tell us what's real? This dismissal, Cooper argued, contributed to public unrest. It's not hard to see why. When people's genuine concerns are brushed off as nonsense, is it any wonder they start to lose faith in those who are supposed to lead them? But Cooper wasn't just there to point fingers. She offered a solution, arguing that more openness and transparency from the government could have helped combat the damaging misinformation that circulated after the attack. It's a novel concept, isn't it? Actually telling people what's going on instead of leaving them to piece together the puzzle from scraps of rumor and speculation. Cooper's final salvo was a call for a thorough inquiry into the government's handling of information. It's a demand that's likely to resonate with a public tired of being kept in the dark and fed, well, you know the rest. As the dust settles on Cooper's explosive performance in Parliament, the nation finds itself grappling with the true cost of government secrecy. The Shadow Home Secretary's relentless pursuit of truth has laid bare the potentially dangerous consequences of withholding crucial information from the public. Her questioning has not only exposed gaps in the official narrative, but also ignited a firestorm of debate about transparency and public safety. The calls for an independent inquiry in the wake of the Southport incident underscore the gravity of Cooper's revelations. This demand for accountability reflects a growing unease among the public, who now question whether the government's approach to national security might be doing more harm than good. As the clamor for answers grows louder, one can't help but wonder, in trying to protect the nation, has the government inadvertently put it at greater risk? Cooper's tenacity has undoubtedly struck a chord with a populace hungry for honesty from its leaders. But as the government continues to stonewall, the question remains, will this be the catalyst for meaningful change, or just another chapter in the ongoing saga of political obfuscation?